Hey, loves, it's your girl Mariah Sincere, and I am back with another Bomb Live. For those of y'all who are new to my channel, I am a social and political commentator. I also help people to radically transform their lives. A year ago, I did not like my situation. I decided I wanted to move in within 6 months. I completely changed my life and moved to a whole nother country. So I'm actually talking to y'all, coming at y'all from the beautiful city of Medellin, Colombia. But I do talk about politics in the United States because I am still a tax-paying U.S. citizen and U.S. policies affect me. With that said, if you are interested in moving abroad, or if you need somebody to help you get a different perspective and come up with a plan to change your life, you can book me at ThePassportSis.com. Okay. I do language lessons. If you need a travel partner when you come to Medellin, or if you just simply need some Spanish lessons, you can book me on my website. It's in the description box below. With that said, welcome back to all of my day ones or my people who have been subscribed to me. It's good to see y'all. We are going to have a very interesting show today, y'all. I'm so irritated because the last live that I did, it got a copyright, and I was like, this was such a good live. Like, so what I ended up doing was just like breaking it up into some videos, and of course not including the video I got a copyright on, but I just broke it up into some smaller videos. So y'all make sure y'all check those videos out. So guys, the Epstein saga continues, right? And I know this is going to be a situation that pisses some of y'all off when I talk about it, because honestly and truly, it is putting a stain on the MAGA agenda. What I will say is this, though. I'm very proud of the fact that majority of the people that I talk to from MAGA are not going. I am very proud of the fact that the majority of the people on the MAGA side are calling the BS out, period. It's not I don't even feel like it's a 50-50 split. You know, like people are calling it a civil war, and I guess kind of, but I feel like it's a very small minority of people who are not pissed about the whole situation with the Epstein files. And what I will say about that reaction in comparison to all the scandals that have happened in the Democrat Party, Democrats in general tend to not respond or pretend that the scandals are not happening, which is part of the reason why there was a massive exodus from the Democrat Party. And a lot of those Democrats who were concerned with truth and things being done the correct way left the Democrats. A lot of them left in 2016 when they rigged the primary with the whole Bernie Sanders situation and Hillary Clinton. Then they did it again in 2020. Y'all, and people left. And then they pulled it again in 2024 when they pulled the whole switcheroo between Kamala and Biden. And, you know, before Biden was even in the general election, he had contenders. They were just suppressing them. They wouldn't let them get on mainstream liberal news. So there were other people who could have ran. But anyway, that party is just the party of turning a blind eye to all the wrong it does. And you have very few people in that party that are willing to truly hold that party and the party leaders accountable. I mean, even those like AOC and Ro Khanna, when it comes to holding Nancy Pelosi accountable, they really don't do it. Like, yeah, I remember AOC tried to, and like, yeah, Nancy got her together real quick, you know. So now her focus is more on Republicans. Oh well. But what I will say that I do like about this coalition on the right is that it seems to be more of the party of critical thinking. And I'm not talking about establishment Republicans. I'm just talking about regular, normal, everyday people who are really concerned with the truth. Of course, you're always going to have those people who put all of their faith 100% in a man and their personality. But then you have those of us who are like, no, MAGA voted on you to do a job, Donald Trump. And in some areas, you are doing what you're supposed to be doing in terms of like immigration. You're doing what you said you were going to do. and we have to give credit where credit is due. But at the same time, in terms of like no more wars, he is falling short. The promises he made about these Epstein files, he is falling short. And the Democrats are using this as an opportunity to go in on MAGA. They're using this as an opportunity to call us crazy conspiracy theorists. They are using this as an opportunity to try to make it seem like the Republicans, if there was a said list, Republicans would be the only ones on that list. And it's like, no, that's very much the list of the uniparty. Let's be for real. We've all heard the stories about Bill Clinton. We've all heard the stories, and the way he was letting Miss Monica give him that sloppy, in the White House. We've heard about his philandering for years. He was very good friends with Jeffrey Epstein. So, with that said, I did it when I was a Democrat. The Democrats didn't really care. If you just talk to your average person in the Democrat Party, your vote blue, no matter who, Democrat, they don't care about the Epstein files. Like, I've never talked to any vote blue, no matter who, Democrat, who was even concerned, like who that was even just on their radar, right? And part of that is because these people very much believe in going with the official narrative. So anything that is out of step with the official narrative, they automatically reject. And they take pride in bashing people who are critical thinkers and calling them conspiracy theorists. Remember, these are the same people who were like, people who don't take the inoculation for that Rona should lose their job and basically be second class citizens. They buy all the way into media narratives. The only time they even will entertain a conspiracy theory is like, for example, a lot of them feel like Elon Musk rigged the machines or did something with the system so that Donald Trump could win. And it's like, no, there was no conspiracy theory there. If you talk to any just regular working class Americans, you would have known that Donald Trump had gained popularity. The problem is people won't admit that to y'all because y'all act crazy when people say that. Okay. Anyway, let's continue. So this situation has continued to get very weird and very odd. So Donald Trump, between now and the time that I was on last, Donald Trump basically tried to like gaslight us into oblivion, and I don't like this, right? So basically, you had a situation where Cash Patel and Dan Bongino were basically saying if Pam Bondi doesn't step down, then we're going to leave. Okay. Dan said it first, and then Cash Patel was like, well, if he leaves, I leave, right? Those were the rumors. None of this is confirmed. With that said, I knew that Donald Trump wasn't going to fire Pam Bondi because it wasn't her fault. So I think what was going on was you had certain people that were trying to create a situation where Pam Bondi was going to get thrown on the bus, under the bus, and pretty much get blamed for people having some type of misperception of what she said or the handling of the situation. And people thought that it was going to go away and like that was going to be good enough. She was going to be the sacrifice. I knew Donald Trump wasn't going to do that. And the main reason being why is because I know this is going to sound silly to some of y'all, but he is a Gemini and I'm a Gemini. And we are people can say what they want to say about us, but we are people of high moral conscience and very, very, very loyal. So if Donald Trump knows that he is the one who told Pam Bondi to bury all that for whatever reason, and I'm not implying that Donald Trump is on the list. I've said this before. It could easily be a situation where his family got threatened. If we truly believe that Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad asset, I featured Kim Iverson's show on my live a couple lives ago, where she talked about how Israel tried to unalive Harry Truman. So this could easily just be a situation where people's lives are really in danger. And I knew from the jump that Donald Trump gave Pam Bondi her orders on that situation. So of course he wasn't going to fire her. Why? It's her fault she's even in this mess. And I knew that she was taking orders when they were in that press conference and she was asked a question, and Donald Trump quickly stepped in to answer for her so that she didn't take the heat. So I don't know. I think a lot of y'all don't want to believe that Donald Trump is actively covering this up. And here's the thing, we don't know why he is, but he is. It's okay to accept that. Hey, what's up, Skinny? Good to see you. Yes, y'all, please hit the like button. That helps people know that I'm on live. It's okay to accept that. Like, I don't understand why we have to be so loyal that we don't accept the basic reality of what's going on in our face, right? And I don't understand why people want Pam Bondi to take the fall so badly. Oh my gosh, did they change this? Y'all, they did something weird with StreamYard. Okay, so I'm going to share this tweet that Donald Trump sent out that just had me rolling my eyes. What's going on with my boys, and in some cases, gals? They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is doing a fantastic job. You know what? I'm glad he said that because, again, I believe she was just following orders. So he's doing the right thing here in defending her. We're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect administration, the talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it. No, it is not selfish. It is not selfish for the American people to say, hey, there are child S trafficking rings going on, and we need to know who's all involved. Mind you, I've told y'all before, I brought up the stats on that. The United States is the largest market for child S trafficking. As a matter of fact, 500,000 children went missing during the Biden administration, and the majority of them, the vast majority of them, have yet to be located. I've also talked to y'all before that I told y'all before that I know for a fact that people in South America sell their children to the cartel to be sold into trafficking situations, and they get brought up through the southern border. So this is not like a conspiracy theory. This is a real thing. People know down here that goes on, right? So that's not selfish. You know, this is about our children. This is about the future, and we don't want PDF files running our government, period. All over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. Well, the way in which he died was suspicious. That is why people are talking about it. You know, Donald Trump is talking about Jeffrey Epstein like he's Mike Myers or something. And it's like, no, the situation was shady. And the video that the FBI put out was like edited in a weird way. And they got found out for that. So it all looks shady. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration? So now he's trying to make this partisan. Trump, you are not like, sir, you have the gift of gab. You are a very gifted orator. You are talented, sir. This game that you're trying to run to try to make this issue partisan is tired. No, sir. You're going to have to go back to the drawing board and figure something else out. Because the people that actually care about Jeffrey Epstein, the majority of people who like are conscious enough to even be worried about it, we don't care about these partisan lines as much as you think that we do. We care about what's right. We care about justice. Who calmed the world with Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agencies, the laptop from hell. Again, it's not like all these conspiracies. It's kind of like he's mixing in truth with manipulation. And I don't like that. They created the Epstein files just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton, Christopher Steele dossier that they used on me. And now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. So here's the thing, Donald Trump. We're not your friends. We are your constituency. The people that voted for you are your voters, and you work for the American people. So we don't care about friends. People voted for you because they liked you. And what you were promising and what you were putting down on the table was better than what the Democrats was putting down on the table. So we decided to pick that up, boo. But friends was never a part of the situation. Let's be very clear. I'm going to choose these children over you every time. Okay? Why didn't the radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? Now, he's making a point there, right? What I will say is this, and I said this at the beginning of the live. They're making this an issue now. Oh, release the files, but again, that's never really been a discussion that's been had on the left. And I'm talking about just in general. You might have had your fringes of the left or your progressives of the left that talk about the Epstein files, but a lot of them left anyway are in MAGA now. If there was anything in there that could have hurt the MAGA movement, why didn't they use it? They haven't even given up on the John F. Kennedy or Martin Luther King Jr. files. No matter how much success we have had securing the border, deporting criminals, fixing the economy, energy dominance, a safer world where Iran will not have I know you didn't decide to bring that up. We're still upset about that. It's never enough for some people. We are about to achieve more in 6 months than any other administration has achieved in over 100 years. I'll give you that. And we have so much more to do. We are saving our country and making America great again, which will continue to be our complete priority. The left is imploding. Kash Patel and the FBI must be focused on investigating voter fraud, political corruption. The political corruption, the Epstein files are included in that, Donald Trump. That's included. That goes hand in hand. Okay. Act Blue, the rigged and stolen election of 2020 and arresting thugs and criminals instead of spending months after months looking at nothing but the same old radical left inspired documents on Jeffrey Epstein. So Donald Trump, you mean to tell me that Ghislaine Maxwell was prosecuted for child sex trafficking? And like who were they trafficking these children to? Nobody? She was just bringing them to Jeffrey Epstein? Is that what y'all trying to say? That she just went and got all these kids for Jeffrey Epstein? Even though the victims were saying that other people were involved. So this makes no sense. If that's the case, free that woman. Because she got brought up, or free her, or get her on some different charges. I don't know. This is not making sense. And I'm not defending Ghislaine Maxwell. She absolutely needs to be in jail. Let Pam Bondi do her job. She's great. The 2020 election was rigged and stolen, and they tried to do the same thing in 2024. That's what she is looking into as AG, and much more. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. Let's keep it that way and not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. That was just very tone deaf. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So what Donald Trump is trying to do, like, it's gaslighting. I don't even know what else to say. He's trying to convince you to not care about something that you absolutely do care about, right? He's trying to separate that whole situation from the political corruption thing. And no, it's a no for me. I'm not going for it, right? And with that said, I will give credit where credit is due. in terms of making good and moving forward on his agendas and policies. Like, if you compare Donald Trump to the presidents that we've had in recent history, he's been more about what he said. But that doesn't negate the fact that on issues that are very important, like being anti-war and releasing these Jeffrey Epstein files, they were very important to his base. He is fumbling. He's fumbling. Does that mean we would have rather had Kamala Harris in office? Hell no. Hell no. I will continue to say that Donald Trump was the much better option. But I think in this regard, this situation, if it doesn't get fixed and if he continues to carry on like this is going to black pill a lot of people. What does that mean? A lot of people that have previously participated in the voting process are probably not going to participate. And do I necessarily recommend that? I think you have to be more realistic. I think you have to have a more realistic view going into that voting booth. You know, if you're going into that voting booth looking for people to really drain the swamp and expose the uniparty and the rhinos and the dinos and like the real inner workings of the system, it's very clear and evident that you're not going to get that, right? But Donald Trump being elected instead of Kamala Harris has been very consequential, right? In terms of domestic policy, in terms of immigration policy, he's doing exactly what people asked him to do. But in terms of foreign policy, you know, you got to go into that voting booth knowing that no matter who is in office, we're sending Israel money. We're sending Ukraine money. We got money for wars and none for the poor. So it is what it is. It is what it is. Guys, please hit the like button. Okay, so I'm going to go over to there was a story put out today on the Shade Room, and this wasn't the only publication that put this out, but you know, this just happens to be more on my feed. And I told y'all before, I believe that there are certain media outlets. Again, for those of y'all who don't know, I'm biracial. My mom is black. Uh, you can identify me how you want to. I don't really care. But there are certain publications like It's On Site and Spiritual World and the Shade Rooms that are kind of like the TMZs of the black community, so to speak, right? And this is where a lot of, not all, but a lot of black people, especially younger black people, get their news. And I have long suspected that these publications are getting paid because they only put out one side and they spin the exact same narrative. So I'm going to share this post that was put out there. So this says Republicans vote to release Republicans block vote to release Jeffrey Epstein files. So I saw that headline and was like, what? But then I looked and saw who posted it, and I was like, oh, it's the Shade Room. So I already know this is misconstrued. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go research it later. But luckily, Lou from LV Nation put out a video on it. So I'm going to react to that. So anyway, the caption reads, Republican lawmakers have blocked an effort that could have required the Donald Trump administration to release files related to Jeffrey Epstein's unaliving and investigation. On Monday, the House Rules Committee voted 6-5 against a Democrat-backed amendment that would have let Congress decide whether to make the files public, according to Axios. Again, Axios is a leftist publication. The Shade Room is a leftist publication. So this is being reported with bias. Of the 9 Republicans on the committee, only South Carolina Representative Ralph Norman supported the measure, despite previously stating that the files are bound to come out. This comes after backlash over last week's DOJ and FBI memo claiming there's no evidence of Epstein's alleged client list. Mind you, again, I have not really seen up until now this whole scandal. I have not really seen the Shade Room posting or being overly concerned about the whole Jeffrey Epstein situation. So again, this is news, like this is new, but okay. Once I saw who posted it, I was like, okay, I'm not even going to get in my feelings about that because I can't trust the source. I already know that they're being paid to spin a narrative. So what we're gonna do now is we are going to head over to LV Nation. This is Lou's channel. For those of y'all who are found me because he featured me on his live, he put me up on his live while I was doing a live. Thank you so much. And thank you for subscribing. So luckily he came with the tea.
We're going to speak about Speaker Johnson's announcement.
Let me put my earphones on.
That has shaken up, and Trump has been alerted on all of this stuff that we are about to talk about. But there's been a huge, and I mean a huge push from the Democrats to say that this is true right here. House GOP blocks vote on release of Epstein files. Now, I had to do a deeper search and a deeper dive to know why the GOP would be blocking the release of the Epstein files, but it wasn't exactly what they said it was. And usually, per Democrats, leave it up to them to try to control this narrative. We ended up finding a clip from the Benny Johnson show where Marjorie Taylor Greene breaks down exactly what happened in Congress. Her being a congresswoman, she explains exactly what it was. Anna Paulina Luna also explains what it was, and then we're going to get to the Epstein files on this. But they're lying about what actually they even voted for in the first place, which is, again,
mind you, this happens all the time. That's why I say, like, when you see a headline, and it's not just the Democrats that do it, both sides do it. So whenever you see a headline that's like huge and they're like such and such blocks bills, and then like it's something that's gonna make you emotional, you always have to go back and ask, like, okay, why did they block the bill? What was in the bill? Because y'all have to understand, we don't have a lot of standalone bills in Congress, which I think certain issues should just be a standalone bill. What happens is people will throw things in a bill that they know the other side is not going for, right? And then when it gets blocked, it's like, oh, the Democrats blocked such and such, or the Republicans blocked this, and like they make it seem like it's because of that specific issue, when really you snuck a whole bunch of stuff into the bill that you already knew they weren't going for. So this happens all the time. Y'all got a peep game.
Not shocking that they're trying to control the narrative on this. So I'm going to play this clip. This is a clip that's making its rounds. Then we're going to talk about, again, Mike Johnson's announcement, Speaker of the House. But this right here is the most important story of the day, because the narrative is that the Republicans are blocking the Epstein files, but that's not even what happened. Take a listen.
I got to correct something real quick.
Please.
So it's being reported that House Republicans unanimously voted to block the release of the Epstein files, and I want to straighten out the record right now. That is not true. If I could vote, okay. If I could vote to release the Epstein files, guys, you would have my vote. I would vote yes. Here's what just happened. It was a procedural vote, and we have these all the time. It's called a PQ. It's voting on the previous question. And if the Democrats had won the previous question, which I know sounds insane, it's one of these crazy rules in the House that are hard to understand, that means they would control the House floor. And that means they could bring up anything. They could bring up impeachment articles against President Trump.
Okay, so these are the games that people play. These are the games that people play. These are the political games that people play. So this was presented as a situation where the Republicans are trying to specifically block, like it's being presented as they had a vote in the House, kind of like how you would vote on a bill, and the Republicans like blocked it, like And it's like, no, that's not exactly what happened here, right? The Democrats were trying to run game. The Republicans peeped the game. But now it's being reported as the Republicans don't want the Jeffrey Epstein files released, and they blocked the Jeffrey Epstein files being released. To be clear, I'm pretty sure there are some Republicans in Congress that don't want the Jeffrey Epstein files to be released, but this was not that. Hi, Alexis. Hi, Mariah. You look gorgeous today. Oh, thank you. That's very sweet of you. Great to see you. Alexis here. Yes, girl, I know you. Thank you for coming into the building.
They could bring up a whole package of insane Democrat agenda items and force votes on the House floor on these things. That's what we voted against. We never allowed Democrats to have control of the House floor because we control the House floor.
Yes.
So it's a misunderstanding. And I
believe Marjorie Taylor Greene. I know a lot of people don't like her because her personality is a little bit brash, but she's always been call it like it is, call it down the middle, say it how it is kind of person. Does she get a little bit vulgar sometimes? Can she insult people sometimes? Yes. Is she a little bit country? Yes. But one thing I'll say is she don't tell no lies, and she's sharp. She's very intelligent.
I just wanted to.
You can't put your most progressive Democrat representative against her. I remember when they were arguing back and forth, and y'all remember when AOC and Jasmine Crockett and Marjorie Taylor Greene got into it, and Marjorie Taylor Greene told both of them, debate me. And they got quiet. They didn't say anything. They weren't like, oh, time and place, we can set it up. They knew not to accept that invitation.
Straighten that out.
So she straightens this out, and then we're going to jump over here because Eric Swalwell, again, we're going to go to more explanations as to what happened, but he went on camera. He basically, again, what every other Republican has been blamed for today, and every Democrat has been jumping on a story. So again, Eric Swalwell says Republicans are blocking.
I also want to make this observation. I'm not trying to call Democrats stupid. I'm not trying to say that here. I'm saying they're very much a go along with the narrative without questioning people. So it's easy to like just put stuff out there and they like run with it. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen on the Republican side too. But again, as I said before, these are the exact same people who like basically wanted us to be second-class citizens if we didn't believe everything that Anthony Fauci said and took that inoculation. These are not people who tend to question the government or question their news publications, right? They look for things to appease them and to reinforce their bias. So all you have to do is put out this type of headline, and they're going to run with it without saying, well, hold on. Well, what actually happened here?
The release of the Epstein files to protect President Trump. Let me debunk this for you. The blocked amendment was a partisan tactic, not a direct vote on the release. So nothing here is direct. You heard what Marjorie Taylor Greene said. Democrats led by Representative Ro Khanna tried to attach an unrelated amendment to cryptocurrency legislation, which was the Genius Act, that would direct the DOJ to compile and release Epstein records with victim redactions. This was nothing more than a procedural stunt to force awkward votes on must-pass bills rather than a standalone efforts for transparency. So none of this was standalone. And if they would have won this vote, they would have been able to control the House floor.
And like I said, to be fair, the Republicans do these things too. They both use these tactics on each other. And this is what the American people are sick of. On certain issues that are important, we need standalone, good faith votes, not all these political games and play for a headline to put in the newspaper. Because that's all it was. The Democrats knew the Republicans weren't going to go for that. It just made a cool headline for them to use.
They knew it'd be rejected, but they only want you to know what they tried. They tried, when in reality, they actually never tried.
Exactly, Mitch.
Again, here's this goofy guy on camera, again, pushing this narrative, because it's the most beneficial thing right now for Democrats is to say that, oh, we're the ones actually trying to release the files. Take a listen.
I want to tell you something that just happened on the House floor. Republicans are voting against.
Hold on. I just want to make this point again. I made it earlier, but some of y'all weren't here. Y'all know I used to be a Democrat. Epstein was not a topic of conversation. It wasn't even really, it's not that, like, there were some people like Kyle Kalinske who were talking about Epstein's, but it wasn't really a topic of conversation even in a lot of the progressive circles. So, like, this has been a non-issue for Democrats. So this is all fake. This outrage now, it's all fake. I was a part of that party. I know they weren't really focused on this, especially just your like average run-of-the-mill milquetoast, vote blue no matter who Democrat. Like, no, they laugh at people who talk about things like the Epstein files. They call us conspiracy theorists.
Was that the case? Here's what happened. Last night at the Rules Committee, we voted on, or the Rules Committee voted on, what would be in the debate rules for the week. Democrats offered an amendment to release the Epstein files, a part of the legislation that we're voting on this week. Republicans voted against it. So now, to pass their rules package, which would control what bills we pass this week, they have to again vote against the Democrats and what we are suggesting, which is any bill this week should include releasing the Epstein files. So that's,
again, intertwining. I don't even think that's a word, but it's mixtures.
No. This needs to be standalone. Don't put this with anything else that you know for a fact the other side is going to go to against. Because now what you do is you put people in a position to where, let's say you put, let's put the Epstein files in the same bill as a vote on abortion, right? A vote on making abortion legal nationwide, right? So now you have Republicans in a situation where I have to choose between whether abortion is going to be legal nationwide, and that fundamentally goes against the majority of their values, right? And they feel very strongly about that, or releasing these Epstein files. This is the type of jigsaw games. This is the type of Saw 3 games that they want to play. And it's like, either way you vote on the issue, you're screwed.
Confusion that got us to this point. And here's Anna Paulina Luna basically, debunking someone who basically said that the GOP unanimously voted to block the Epstein files. And I've seen this everywhere. And I'm not going to lie. I was in awe. I was like, I can't believe that this is what the GOP is doing. By the way, I told you guys, whether you voted for Trump or not, you don't have to consider yourself a Republican. You may vote Republican, but man, these rhinos are crazy. These Republicans are crazy. But it's also good to dig in and find the truth in this particular matter. So Anna Paulina Luna, representative, says this is not true. This was a procedural vote that it failed. Would have turned over the House to the Democratic Party. Again, they can introduce a whole bunch of legislation, including impeachment. You should update your posting so that you're putting out actual and factual information. Pull up the language for this and vote and verify it for yourself.
But most,
so that is a huge.
That's why it's so easy. I'm gonna stop sharing this. But yeah, that was on Lou's channel on LV Nation. So shout out to him. The reason why they are not going to do a standalone bill, y'all, because I see you say they always group things together. We need standalone bills. Yeah, the reason why they don't do that for two things, right? If you actually solve an issue, then you don't have anything to campaign on. So, like, if you think about all the hot button issues that we have in this country, if they actually get solved with standalone bills, what are these politicians going to campaign on? Because anger is a great motivator. Anger and fear is a great motivator, and it drives people to the polls. So if they actually fix certain things, it's really throwing salt on their game, right? And I do believe there are well-intentioned congressmen who would actually prefer doing standalone bills. Another thing, that reason why they say we can't do that is because they have so much legislation that they need to get through within like one session that it's like better to bundle it. But I feel like the problem is if y'all have that much legislation that y'all need to be deciding on, y'all have too much power. Like, it's too much overreach. Like, no, I feel like their role should, in what they can and cannot legislate on, should be far more simplified, in my opinion. So yeah, it's all games in play. We are not conspiracy theorists. We are conspiracy realists. Yeah, I watched a clip of Candace Owens saying, like, if you're not a conspiracy theorist by now, then you're just not intelligent. And like, I have to agree with her. Like, I have to agree with her because, like, mind you, there are some crazy conspiracy theories out there, but some things, it's just, if you use your brain, that didn't even make sense. You know, like, there are certain issues where I'm like, that didn't even make sense to go with that. For example, I'm going to go back to the whole situation with Anthony Fauci. I remember when the Rona first hit, he told us the mask didn't work. Then he came back a couple months later and said masks do work. Right? And then, like, it was all this switching. I remember when they first put the actual inoculation out, they said that it would prevent you from getting the disease. And then they had to come back a couple months later and say, well, it prevents it from, it prevents you from being unalive from it, basically. It lessens the symptoms. The symptoms are less severe. And then you have these people who were like, y'all are conspiracy theorists, believe the science. And it's like, well, the science keeps changing. And then Anthony Fauci openly admitted to lying about one thing that we know of. Like, what leads you to believe that this is a person that is incapable of lying to you? And then he admitted to your face that he lied. And then you still think that he's incapable of lying. That makes absolutely no sense. Furthermore, I said this when Donald Trump was in office when the Rona first hit. This was just me going based off of basic common sense, right? I said, I'm not putting any inoculation in my body that anybody rushed. I'm not doing that. What is the mortality rate on this? Okay. Well, I think I'll take my chances with the Rona because I don't know what this is that they're rushing. And I saw I Am Legend. Okay. I saw I Am Legend. So yeah, I'm not doing it. I need something with years of research behind it. And then they rolled it out. Then here comes the Dems and Fauci and them. Oh, this was years in development. If it was in development for years, then why wasn't it ready at the beginning of the demic? And why are people that worked on the technology that goes into this inoculation telling other people not to get it? Dr. Robert Malone. So it's just, you cannot. That's why I had to leave the Democratic Party. Like, for people who are like, we are the most college educated, and the people who vote Republican are poor, white, uneducated people. It's like, yeah, but where are y'all's critical thinking skill? Where is your common sense? Did y'all ever hear y'all's grandmother say, "You're so smart that you're dumb"? That's what the like. And I'm not saying this is all Democrats. I know some very intelligent people who are Democrats. Okay. I'm not saying that. It's just, yeah. I'm a move on because I don't want to. I really don't want to. They're people just like us. That's all I'm saying. I have compassion for them. My small town police would enforce mask mandate. I never wore a mask the whole time. Were you trying to say they wouldn't enforce it? I didn't wear a mask either. I'm from Texas though, but I lived in Dallas. But you know, it's a liberal city, but Dallas liberals are way different than like a DC liberal. I learned that when I went to DC in 2021 and people were wearing masks and some restaurants were requiring you to have your papers proving you had been inoculated for entry. And I'm like, I've never seen this in my liberal city. Okay, we're over it. In our minds, the demic is over. Y'all are still walking around here wearing masks. My sister, 12 years old, my senior medical professional, says masks are for surgeons and don't keep any floaties out. Interesting. You got chased around the groceries. Police would not enforce mask mandate here. Good. Wow, that's crazy. It was very crazy. Northeast Michigan, my governor is bad. Yeah, you know, what I will say is during that whole period, shout out to Greg Abbott. I did not like him before the Rona hit. And then after that, I was like, thank God I live in this man's state because the Democrats were losing their mind. And keep in mind, at that time, I hadn't like officially decided that I'm never voting on the left again, right? And then when the Rona hit, and I'm like, Greg Abbott, of all people, is my savior right now. He is protecting me from these lunatics, right? And then now I think he's the best governor in the union, period. Like, what other governor is better than Greg Abbott? Name one. I'm waiting. There's not one. You can't. Right? He is single-handedly the reason why a lot of people were forced to come to terms with the immigration policies of the Biden administration and actually do something about it in the 2024 election. Like, I will say that he was probably him and Elon Musk buying Twitter were the most consequential elements to Donald Trump winning the 2024 election. Without a doubt. I would even argue that Greg Abbott's contribution was far greater than Elon Musk's. I would argue that. Greg Abbott is awesome. He is. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears here. So we're going to talk about the BRICS. Do you want to talk about BRICS first or in crypto or immigration? I didn't get any either. I never got a jab and I didn't get the Rona. I mean, if I had it, did it make me sick enough to notice? Let's do BRICS first. Okay, for those of y'all who do not know what the BRICS is a coalition of countries that was formed to basically combat the G7, the United States and its allies, honestly and truly. So the BRICS is composed of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, but you can call it the BRICS Plus because there are also other countries who have aligned themselves with them. Now, certain things are changing. What they're really focusing on is doing business in Asia and Africa in particular. And a lot of this is being done to combat the International Monetary Fund and its grip on these countries, right? So basically, their goal is to create a currency that can compete with the US dollar, right? And it's even been talked about that they have like one unified currency. Now, the relationships between these nations in the BRICS is kind of complicated. And what I will say is, if left unchecked, they could absolutely be the downfall of the United States and our currency. I'm not going to hold you, right? Because these are some heavy hitters. And though the United States is a powerful country, we are just one country. But some things have kind of changed. And tensions have intensified. For example, Brazil is the only country like in Latin America that really can afford to stand up to the United States. You know, so when you think of Brazil, a lot of people think like poverty when they think of Brazil. But even like a lot of the men that I know that travel abroad, you know, the passport bro types, they will say that it's harder for them to date in Brazil than in a place like Colombia because, you know, their currency is worth more and the local men, it's easier to find local men who can afford to provide there, right? So recently, with all the changes in immigration and things of that nature, Brazil just passed a bill this year that American citizens need to have at least $2,000 in savings to enter their country. And, you know, that might sound like inconsequential to you. You're like, okay, well, it's just $2,000 in savings. You should have that if you're traveling. But you have to understand, we went from not having to prove financial solvency to now we have to prove financial solvency versus we could just enter visa free and without having to prove that we had X amount of dollars in our bank account. So that was an escalation in the tensions between the United States and Brazil. I know Brazil got pissed off earlier in the year because Donald Trump sent a plane of their citizens back and they were like handcuffed on the plane. Personally, I don't understand what was the problem because ultimately you're sending people back that don't want to go back. So you have to think about the fact that you just might get a couple people on the plane that decide they want to revolt or take down the plane or whatever. And I know it sounds terribly inhumane, but it's just the reality of the situation. So anyway, I'm going to go to RJ Talks channel because he talks about this new law that is in Congress and it has to do with crypto. Now, I'll keep it all the way 1000 with y'all. I've never bought crypto. I am one of those people, and this is terrible, but I am this way. I get so like when I'm so like wormy when it comes to talking about money. But let's talk about this.
Economic warfare on BRICS moving full steam ahead this week, using everything in their arsenal. Congress now set to vote this week on major crypto legislation, and it's got nothing to do with just the crypto markets. There's so much more happening here that will fundamentally change the game. Dems furious over this. We'll explain what's happening, why it's such a big deal, because it is. The fight with China and BRICS is here, folks. Russia now choosing sides. Saudi Arabia also has chosen sides. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. Also, if you haven't pressed the subscribe button yet, consider doing so you don't miss these regular updates.
Anti-American policies.
10%, George.
That would be India, Brazil,
That's
Russia,
right, they have to pay
South
10% if they're in BRICS. Because
Right.
BRICS was set up to hurt us. BRICS was set up to degenerate our dollar and take our dollar as the standard, take it off as the standard.
I mean, this is true though, right? And I've heard economists like, you know, Richard D. Wolff, shout out to him. I think he's a very intelligent man, but he's more of like a Marxist economist. And though I do think that he does have something to offer to the discussion, a lot to offer. He's a very intelligent man, right? But a lot of people kind of feel like, hey, what's up, Jamal? Good to see you. Good to see you. A lot of people feel like the United States is a dying empire and we should just gracefully bow out. And I'm not going to lie. When I was a Democrat, I thought that way as well. But now since I've like matured, I've experienced some things, I've traveled, I've talked to people in other countries, I've seen things, I know things that I didn't know before. I feel like that is a loser's mentality. If you're going to go out with a bang. And it's not a given that we have to be on our way out, is what I'm saying. At least not now. And yes, I know all empires or all powerful countries rise and they fall. Why does that have to be now? If we have an opportunity to do something about this, aren't we obligated to try, at least for our citizens? Because they're thinking about their citizens. And trust and believe, this is kind of a situation where we don't want to be like, as American people, we're already pissed that we can observe that Israel has some type of hold or power over us. Imagine being in a position of a smaller country, like a much smaller country with no power, and you have several other countries who are capable of like financially destroying you or wiping you off the map. And I know that sounds crazy because you're like, okay, well, you live in a country where that country is capable of doing that. But when you begin to understand human nature, then you understand that if it wasn't the United States doing it, it would be another country doing it. A lot of these countries, they're not upset at the fact that the United States is powerful. They're upset that they're not just as powerful. And some of these countries, if they were given the opportunity to have the wealth and the power that the United States have, when you see how they run, how corrupt they are with the what they're given stewardship over right now, you would know they would be in absolute terror if they were in our position. I know that sounds so Machiavellian to say, but it is what it is. It's the truth. I don't know what else to say. Richard Wolff is the man. Don't follow these sharks that want to rob people of their resources and call it capitalism. But here's the thing, Jamal. Within a lot of these people's own countries, they are robbing poor people. I was listening to Austin Holloman, and for those of y'all who don't know Austin Holloman, he is an American immigrant slash expat from the United States who immigrated to Kenya. Okay. So he was saying, and not only did he immigrate to Kenya, but he's traveled to like over 50 countries. He's lived in Latin America for an extended period of time. He's lived in Africa for an extended period of time. And he says, from what he's witnessed, U.S. corruption looks like this. You know, we're going to like request $1 billion in funds. We're going to allocate like 800 million of it, and we're going to steal 200 million of it, right? But like in countries in Africa, it's the opposite. We're going to steal 800 million of it, and the other 200 million we'll actually use on the people. And the people are so used to the corruption that they don't even get outraged. They're like, oh, okay, this is how it is. So it's like we can talk about stealing people's resources, and I don't necessarily think that that's right. But like, let's be for real about the majority of the countries that we're dealing with here. Let's be for real. And like I said, people always try to make it seem like the United States is this great evil. Again, I was talking about this with a friend of mine. We were discussing the issue of slavery. Slavery, absolutely terrible. Shouldn't have never happened. I condemn the United States for its role in that. But then it's like, we never hold the countries in Africa who were selling the slaves accountable. Like, who's worse? The person who buys the slaves or the person who sells their own people into slavery in a global market? Now, to me, both things are terrible, but it's like to betray people residing in your own territory and sell them into slavery, and you know what's going to happen to them. That's wild behavior. I could never picture there being like a government-owned market in the United States where the United States sells its own people into slavery. Okay, anyway. Some people might be upset, but I just told the truth and nothing but the truth. U.S. not dying, but deep state cabal wants us dead. Yeah, well, true. They did not sell their own people per se. You can call us Israelite. No, African leader is well documented. They sold Black people into slavery. They did, for guns and liquor. They did. And they caught them too. They caught them. Like, white people weren't able to go that far inland. No, they were doing the catching of their own people or rival tribes, and they were delivering them to be shipped overseas. This happened. It's well documented. Even Africans know it happened. America is a superpower with no conscience. So, Jamal, do you think that if the United States didn't exist today, like let's say the United States said, you know what, we're going to give up our nuclear weapons, we're going to give every country like complete autonomy and sovereignty. We're basically just going to give up all of our power and we're going to let y'all have it. Do you think there would be no dominating superpower? Do you think all the countries in the world would decide we're going to split up power equally and we're not going to try to dominate each other? Because history tells us that never happens. That's just not the case. There's always been empires. You had the Mongol Empire, the Persian Empire, the British Empire. Even within even in the Americas, before the Europeans came, you had the Aztec Empire, the Incan Empire. And all of this was centered around conquest, conquering other people in their land and exerting power and authority. So that's why I say if it wasn't us, it would be somebody else. They did not sell their own Okay, I already read this. Okay, let's continue. I know that sounds harsh, what I just said, but it is just the reality.
And that's okay if they want to play that game, but I can play that game too.
So this is gearing up to be a wild week. Trump and Republicans, again, moving full steam ahead legislatively. The House set to vote on 3 game-changing crypto bills this week. This is being called Crypto Week. And there's a reason. This really can change the game for crypto. But the bigger story, the real reason for this is to completely crush BRICS. Crush the chance at any alternative to replace the dollar as the world reserve currency. If all goes as planned, multiple things will happen this week. It's crazy when a plan comes into place and just starts to work. First, it could set up the US as the crypto empire of the world, which Dems are furious over, that Trump will end up getting credit for this. Also, at the same time,
that's mental illness. To be so worried about one man that you would sabotage the progress of your country, that is mental illness. But again, a lot of Dems are very anti-American. A lot of their interests lie with other countries.
it's got the potential to save the US dollar, lock in the dollar's hegemony, not just for a few decades, but generations. We're going to explain how that's possible. And finally, bring about real regulation, which means institutional investors will be able to finally start pouring in to the crypto market.
Introducing Agora's conversational AI engine. Build and integrate your AI agent.
I used to think that too. My point is, that's not going to happen. Do you understand? Like, that's not going to happen because you're always going to have one nation or somebody that comes along, a nation that comes along with a leader that is super ambitious and they want to take it all. And there's no stopping them. So my point is there are not too many examples around the world where we just had this type of multifaceted economic system where everybody was willing to share power. That doesn't happen at a micro level nor a macro level. It doesn't exist, is what I'm saying. It never existed. So that's theory. Until you can show me an extended period of time in human history where that type of model existed, then it's just theory.
This week, we are delivering on President Trump's promise to make America the crypto capital of the world. For too long, digital asset innovation in this country has been stifled by ambiguous rules, instability, and the Biden administration's anti-crypto crusade. Now we have the opportunity to pass a comprehensive, nonpartisan.
I'm not okay with what the IMF does. You're missing the point that I'm making. Jamal, I'm not okay with what the IMF does. What I'm saying is those countries, when left to their own devices, are the leaders of those countries, when left to their own devices, are far more corrupt and evil than the IMF, and the corruption is so overt. And if given the opportunity to seize power, those type of people would not show half of the consideration that the United States does. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it could be worse, is what I'm saying.
And digital asset legislation that will unlock the next era of American innovation, protect consumers, and strengthen the U.S. dollar.
We are in the final battle here to save the US dollar. As we speak, it's happening right now. On one side, we have the United States. The other side, we have China and Russia, who are pushing for this new BRICS currency, who are dumping US dollars, hoarding gold for themselves. Trump throwing everything he's got right now to stop BRICS from taking off, halting global de-dollarization as we speak, which is where this week comes into play, Crypto Week. The U.S. Senate just passing the Genius Act. It's now working its way to a vote tomorrow or Thursday in the House, gearing up to be the first standalone crypto measure signed into law. But the bigger prize that Trump's eyeing is what's called the Clarity Act, which is what Dems are really upset about. This bill will set the United States up as the crypto haven of the world. The Clarity Act sets the rules for when an asset is considered a security and overseen by the SEC versus being considered a commodity and overseen by the CFTC. This bill clears the path for institutional investors to really start getting into crypto. The big money has been sitting crypto out for years because it's lacked clarity, the Clarity Act, from regulators. This would permanently fix that. Tomorrow it's set to pass in the House, but the Clarity Act facing a hurdle in the Senate. Dem senators publicly accusing Trump of benefiting from this legislation because Trump owns crypto. They believe this will just see crypto go gangbusters after this and would benefit.
I mean, yeah, Trump does own crypto and it would benefit him, but let's be clear, a lot of Americans own crypto. And if this would fortify our position in the world, I'm an American. I'm never rooting against America, period. Even though I live in another country, I spend US dollars here. Why would I root against the US dollar? That makes absolutely no sense. I want our currency to be as strong as possible so that wherever I may go, I have a strong currency to use. So I'm never rooting against the US dollar. Why would I do that? I'm American. That makes absolutely no sense.
Him and his family too much. That's what they're saying publicly, but privately, they know upon the passage of the Clarity Act, we would likely see a bonanza in the crypto market. Money likely would begin flowing in from around the world, and they don't want to give Trump that kind of a win. This isn't your typical regulatory touch-up that we're seeing. This is massive economic overhaul, folks, economic warfare. Trump betting this will permanently shore up the dollar for generations. This is the Trump administration's counteroffensive. And it's actually quite brilliant, tying the US dollar to stable coins.
Stable coins really have the potential to ensure American dollar dominance internationally, to increase the usage of the US dollar digitally as the world's reserve currency, and in the process create potentially trillions of dollars of demand for US treasuries, which could lower long-term interest rates.
Just like the US dollar used to be tied to gold, then Nixon took us off the gold standard. Now we have the petrodollar, but that's clearly going away. It's not stable enough. We need the next peg. And Trump's betting this is it, betting this could really be it, at least for a while.
And we are going to put a lot of thought into the stablecoin regime. And as President Trump has directed, we are going to keep the U.S., the dominant reserve currency.
I don't understand, Jamal. You're saying you're broke, so you'll always be for the lay people. I mean, this is for the lay people too. It's important for just a regular, I'm not rich. It's important for a regular person like myself for the US dollar to be strong. It's important for lower middle class and middle class people as well for the US dollars to be strong. It benefits us all, even if you're not rich. And if you don't understand those benefits, like a lot of times you won't even see, like, depending on like where you live or where you move or if you travel, when you travel, you'll really understand how beneficial it is for you to have access to the US dollar. Okay, so I'm going to get off of that because I want to move into my next subject. I want to talk about immigration for a little bit, but I hope that this bill passes. And, I'm sure it will, but, leave it to the Democrats to try to sabotage because they don't want to see Donald Trump get a win. And it's like, bruh, Joe Biden just left office. If y'all wanted to get to it first, if it's about that, y'all could have beat Trump to the punch. I don't understand the foolishness. He comes along with a great idea and the ability to actually get it passed, and they want to sabotage. Okay, so now we are on.
Son, you're not just human.
If you've never,
we're going to Cash Jordan's channel. Apparently, some rioters broke into ICE headquarters. Crazy.
broken a single bone, you might be one of us.
The 12 ongoing protest for several weeks.
So as riots and protests take over sanctuary cities in America, there's one group of people losing everything they have. And that would not be the low IQ agitators assaulting federal troops and getting arrested. In fact, these are the people with nothing to lose. Instead, it's the folks living in homes and apartments at the center of these urban battlegrounds. And as you're about to see, these once nice places have been turned into total no-go zones.
This is the sound that residents living near the ICE protest in South Portland have been hearing for days now.
Portland makes absolute sense. This had to be somewhere over there with the hippies. And I was watching the show. He was like, the hippies and hairy-legged women. Yeah, that's what it's giving.
One woman tells K2 they can't sleep or even think.
Talk with residents who've been living with the protests. Very noisy, very animated. There's a lot of people.
Wow.
A lot of.
Why is their headquarters in? I wonder if they have several headquarters around the country. Like, this can't be the main headquarters. Why not put it somewhere else? Portland?
Protests during the day and then at night.
It's just been constant. Like, we're seeing red gases, green gases.
For the past couple of weeks, it's been nonstop, almost 24/7.
A typically quiet neighborhood, Portland's South Waterfront is currently anything but, as tensions between protesters, ICE agents, and local law enforcement continue to test its limits.
Wednesday night at 10:50 was a succession of 17 explosions. I counted them.
Police maintain that they want to allow demonstrators to exercise their First Amendment rights. The day has remained relatively calm, though I did speak with one protester who called in a bomb threat.
The game has complete. This is such a complicated situation because, like, I absolutely believe in First Amendment rights. I absolutely do believe people should have a right to protest. These are lunatics. These are crazy people. These are people who the majority of them don't know the difference between legal immigration and illegal immigration. and who don't understand that if they were illegally in another country, they too would get deported. These are people who don't know the difference between what a man is and what a woman is. Like, if you ask them, they would give you an entire dissertation as to why a man could be a woman and a woman could be a man, and that you have to believe that is actual fact. These are people who are not well. And they are physically attacking ICE agents. And some of y'all might feel like, oh, okay, well, they're doing the work of the states. Like, I have to understand, these are people that have like families to go home to. We need people to enforce laws in our country. If you think that we don't need people to enforce laws in our country, go live in a country where the police are absolutely ineffective. And for those of y'all who think the United States police is corrupt, and yes, there certainly are some elements of that, go live in a country where it's just blatant, widespread, and rampant. And then you come back and you tell me how you like it. Cash Jordan is cool. I have watched most of his videos. Yeah, I love Cash Jordan. And what I like is that he actually lives in New York City. So it's like he's giving us firsthand information, you know, when he talks about all the stuff that has been going on as a result of all these liberal policies.
Completely changed on Instagram. If you're like me, it's fun to grow on Instagram, but like,
do these people not have jobs?
So the protesters attacking this place have the goal of getting inside and liberating people who've been arrested. But what nobody's talking about is if these rioters accomplish their goal, you're definitely going to guarantee other, even more extreme uprisings take place all across the country. Because the radicals you see here are the same, regardless of what city or country they're in. We've seen this same sort of behavior at the New York City ICE facility, and even recently among rioters destroying Mexico City in Mexico while telling Americans to leave their country. These people,
I did a video on that. Check it out.
all have the same views, supporting a one-way U.S. border, and they've all vowed to resist whatever President Trump stands for. And to these people who exhibit the same behavior no matter where in the world we find them, as they're attacking federal troops wearing homemade suits of body armor, if those troops just arrested somebody who the president says is a gang member, well, that person must be innocent because the president is guilty to them.
Y'all, this is the type of mentality. I've seen so many situations where they're like, oh, they just arrested me and I did nothing. Like, this is the victim mindset these people have. And then you watch the video and it's like, you absolutely did do something. You did something. I remember I was watching a video and this lady literally was like in front of somebody's car. Right? They're protesting immigration. She's in front of somebody's car. It's a truck, mind you. It's a big truck. And she will not let this truck pass. She will not let this truck go. And so the truck is like, okay, I'm going to start driving. So she's like yelling and screaming. And finally, when the truck starts like speeding, and she's like, oh my God, my life is, she was like, please. And it's like, bruh, you could have just got out the way when they repeatedly asked you to get out the way. Now you're begging for your life. And then you're going to be the type to be like, I wasn't doing anything. Same situation. An American citizen got arrested and her parents and her sister, we just dropped her off to work. And next thing we know, ICE is taking her away. Yes, what you didn't mention is that she tried to interfere with an ICE arrest. And they, well, we didn't do anything. They're just they're arresting U.S. citizens too. They're coming for you next. And it's like, stop. Y'all used to be a teacher. So this really irritates me because like there would be kids who would like hit another kid or I'd catch them cheating on the test. Like, I literally see you. I see you. I saw you. Go into Google, find the answer, copy and paste it, and put it on your test. And then when we talk to your parents, I'm picking on you and you didn't do anything. Like, these are the type of people who are at these protests.
Meanwhile, there's an overlooked group of innocent bystanders bearing the brunt of these nightly assaults at the ICE headquarters in Portland. Part of that group includes the innocent federal officers who've been tasked with securing their building and making America safe again. And the other part of that group would be the innocent neighbors who, regardless of their political views, are losing their communities as anarchists take to the streets on a regular basis, trying again and again to kick ICE out of their city. Which brings us to the real reason it's so important that ICE not only stay in Portland and continue doing their jobs, but also that they continue to push back the assaults of the lawless. If they fail for some reason and protesters get inside this facility and cause more mayhem, that's only going to embolden and encourage their counterparts across the country. And if these people sense 1 inch of weakness, they are going to take a mile. And protesters across America are watching what's happening here in Portland. And should they sense even the slightest bit of weakness or hesitancy, they may interpret this as possible empathy from the federal government on behalf of their cause, a cause which seeks to reopen America's border by allowing whoever sneaks in here to stay forever, even if they're extremely dangerous. Yet the more I look at this situation, the more obvious it becomes that these rioters are the real danger to America.
Scenes in Portland overnight as fiery protests broke out in front of the ICE building there. DHS agents clearing out the demonstrators.
Don't have jobs. Like, Portland must have a hell of a welfare center, because my concern with behaving like this is, like, what am I going to tell my boss if I can't go to work in the morning because I'm arrested? And maybe I'll lose my job because I got arrested. And I don't know, maybe they have different labor laws. Like in Texas, you would absolutely lose your job over something like this. You know, we're an at-will state. Nicole, no, I'm not Nicole. I'm sorry. Hey, Nicole, what's up, girl? Good to see you. Alexis, I put the video link in the chat about the riots that went on in Mexico, but I edited this video. I had to like re-edit this video because when I actually put out the live, it got a copyright because of one of my news sources. So this actually will not premiere until tomorrow. Nicole says, we want the criminal illegal immigrants out, not the illegal selling empanadas. I mean, that's a moderate stance on immigration. And I think it's a fair stance. I've done several other videos about the economic consequences of illegal immigration. And also about the fact that, like, regardless if you're a criminal or not, Nicole, you as an American, you cannot illegally be in another country. They will deport you. They're not going to be like, oh, but she's not a criminal. Nobody is going to protest on your behalf in any other country that you're not a criminal and that you shouldn't be deported. As a matter of fact, more than likely, they're probably going to talk mad shit about you being in their country illegally, regardless of what you were there doing. And that's just the reality. I feel like a lot of Americans feel that way because they don't understand that the United States is probably one of the most loose countries in the world in terms of how we deal with illegal immigration. Like, it's not even close. For example, if you try to illegally come into Poland, they will, this is the law. If you try to cross over their border, their fences, they will pew you down like a dog on the street. They have a shoot on sight policy. Like, shoot. As soon as they see you trying to step over that border, it's up for you. You're done. It's over. And it's the safest country in Europe. I'm not suggesting that we do that at all. That's a bit extreme. I think they were dealing with a different situation over there. And we see what's happened to the I could do a whole live on the UK and how it's gone to shit in most of Western Europe. So Poland was like, no, that's not going to be us. Well, keep in mind, America corporate imperialism is a reason for illegal immigration. I'm going to go back to this And again, I have to be careful because I'm not in my I'm in another country. I'm gonna go back to this, Jamal. Again, the United States is made as the big bad person, but a lot of these countries are corrupt and oppress their own people. So it's not American policies that keep, it's not just that, like that is a very, in my opinion, that is a very small part of the reason why a lot of these countries will not prosper economically. A lot of the times you just have to go there and see how the government operates and see the mentality of the people, see how they just live on a day to day, and then you will understand why they are poor. And that's not a bad thing. That doesn't make them bad people. But you don't get to be the United States of America without sacrificing a lot. I say this all the time. Even with American people, a lot of people, I had to kind of check this guy last week because he was like, oh, people say Americans are lazy. And I'm like, bruh, compared to the amount of holidays that people take in countries that have less money than us, like there are countries where they have 7 days of vacation. There are countries where like they literally like are having a holiday every other week. There's no work. There's a holiday. And I'm like, bruh, Americans are workaholics. I've met so many people that are like, that lived in the United States and was like, I had to leave. Y'all work too hard over there. OMG, my aunt lives in Mexico City. Okay, guys, I have about like 2 minutes on here because I have to get off and work. So let me try to play. I'll probably like finish this conversation
after they could be seen tossing smoke grenades and lighting off flares out on the street. The agents having to fire rubber bullets at several of those demonstrators as they continue to cause chaos.
These are people who vote the same way they behave, and that spells disaster for our country. And they can't be allowed to breach this facility and destroy it and kick ice.
I'm actually going to come back to this video on tomorrow's live. But yes, these are people who absolutely, they behave irrationally. So you can count on them to vote irrationally. Again, these are not serious people with jobs or children to think about. And if they have children to think about, they're not thinking about them. Like they're literally putting themselves in harm's way over people who are in the country illegally. Who, if it was in the reverse and they went to another country and was there illegally, you would get deported. That's standard procedure. You would get deported. With that said, guys, I got to get off of here. I got to work. Thank y'all for everybody that showed up. Smash the like button on your way out. I will see y'all tomorrow around the same time.